Humanity has always gazed up at the stars with a sense of wonder. From the moment our ancient ancestors first looked into the night sky, we have dreamt of what lies beyond our world. The moon, the planets, and the distant twinkling stars have been sources of myths, legends, and scientific curiosity for millennia. This innate desire to explore, to push beyond the known horizon, is a fundamental part of who we are. It drove early explorers to cross vast oceans and chart unknown continents. Today, that same spirit is propelling us towards the greatest voyage of all deep space travel. The dream of setting foot on Mars, or even exploring the moons of Jupiter, is no longer just science fiction. It is a tangible goal that scientists and engineers around the world are working tirelessly to achieve. The allure of deep space is immense. It represents a chance to answer some of the most profound questions we have ever asked. Are we alone in the universe? Could life exist on other worlds? However, this grand ambition is not without its challenges. The journey to Mars and beyond is fraught with dangers unlike any we have faced before. Yet beyond these well-understood challenges lies a more insidious and pervasive threat. This danger is invisible, silent, and relentless. It permeates the entirety of interplanetary space, a constant barrage of high-energy particles that can pass through the hull of a spacecraft as if it were barely there. So, what exactly is this invisible enemy we call space radiation? In simple terms, it is a constant flow of highly energetic particles traveling through space at nearly the speed of light. Unlike the radiation we might encounter on Earth, space radiation is primarily composed of atomic nuclei. These are atoms that have been stripped of their electrons, leaving behind a positively charged core. They are remnants of ancient cosmic events, like exploding stars known as supernovae. Think of them as tiny subatomic cannonballs, fired across the galaxy with incredible force. They are everywhere in deep space, creating a hazardous environment far from the protective bubble of our home planet. There are two main types of space radiation that concern us. The first is known as galactic cosmic rays, or GCRs. These particles originate from outside our solar system, from cataclysmic events in the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy. The second type is solar particle events, or SPEs. These are intense bursts of radiation thrown out by our own sun during violent solar flares or coronal mass ejections. Here on Earth, we are remarkably well protected from this cosmic onslaught. Our planet has two natural shields that work in tandem to keep us safe. The first is the magnetosphere, a powerful magnetic field generated by the Earth's molten iron core. The second shield is our thick atmosphere. Any radiation that does manage to penetrate the magnetosphere collides with atoms of nitrogen and oxygen in the air. Once you leave the protective embrace of our planet, however, the situation changes dramatically. A spacecraft traveling to the red planet is fully exposed to the constant drizzle of GCRs and the sudden downpours from SPEs. The thin metal hull of a spaceship offers very little protection against these high-energy particles. It is like facing a hailstorm with nothing but a paper umbrella. The primary reason space radiation is such a significant challenge is the profound and damaging effect it has on the human body. The high-energy particles can easily pass through skin and tissue, wreaking havoc at a cellular level. Our cells have mechanisms to repair this damage, but in the high-radiation environment of deep space, the damage can overwhelm these natural repair systems. The health risks for astronauts on long-duration missions are substantial and varied. In the short term, a sudden, high dose of radiation from a major solar flare could cause acute radiation sickness. Over the longer term, the constant exposure to GCRs significantly increases the lifetime risk of developing cancer. It is not just the human crew that is at risk. The spacecraft itself is also vulnerable to radiation. A single cosmic ray can cause a serious malfunction in the sophisticated electronics that control the spacecraft. The first major type of space radiation our astronauts will face is a constant pervasive threat known as galactic cosmic rays, or GCRs. These are the true wanderers of the cosmos, originating from far beyond our own solar system. GCRs are a diverse mix of particles. About 87% of them are simple protons, but it is the final 1% that causes the most concern for radiation shielding experts, the nuclei of heavier elements like iron. An iron nucleus traveling at near light speed can slice through materials and biological tissue like a microscopic cannonball, leaving a dense trail of damage in its wake. The GCR field comes from all directions at once and is always present. There is no hiding from it in deep space. While galactic cosmic rays are the constant simmering threat, the second type of radiation is more like a sudden, violent eruption. This threat comes from our very own star, the Sun, in the form of solar particle events, or SPEs. When a powerful solar flare, or CME, occurs, it can blast a massive cloud of charged particles out into space. Unlike the ancient GCRs from distant supernova, the particles in an SPE are freshly accelerated by the Sun's own magnetic fury. An unprotected astronaut caught in the path of a major SPE could receive a massive, potentially fatal dose of radiation in just a few hours. This is an acute, short-term risk that demands a very different kind of protection strategy. The key challenge with SPEs is their unpredictability. A powerful, Earth-directed SPE can take anywhere from less than an hour to a few days to reach a spacecraft traveling to Mars. To fully appreciate the severity of the space radiation environment, it is helpful to compare it directly to what we experience here on Earth. Our planet is a veritable paradise when it comes to radiation protection. We are shielded by a dynamic duo of defenses, the planetary magnetic field and our thick atmosphere. Thanks to this dual shield system, the radiation dose we receive on the surface of the Earth is minuscule. Now contrast this with the environment faced by an astronaut on a mission to Mars. As soon as their spacecraft leaves low Earth orbit, it is beyond the protection of the magnetosphere. The radiation dose rate inside a spacecraft in interplanetary space can be hundreds of times higher than on Earth's surface. Even astronauts on the International Space Station receive a radiation dose in one day that is equivalent to what an average person on Earth receives in an entire year. Now that we understand what space radiation is, we must confront the critical question: what does it actually do to the human body? The danger lies at the smallest of scales, deep within our own cells. The most critical target in this cellular battlefield is our DNA, the delicate, twisted ladder that holds the genetic instructions for every function in our body. Space radiation can tear it apart with ease. Our bodies are amazing machines. They have sophisticated systems that can detect and repair damaged DNA. However, in the relentless radiation environment of deep space, the damage can be constant and overwhelming. The ionizing particles can also create highly reactive molecules known as free radicals. These are like tiny, out-of-control vandals, bouncing around inside the cell and damaging proteins, cell membranes, and other essential structures. While a sudden massive dose of radiation from a solar storm presents an immediate, acute threat, the more insidious danger for long-duration missions is the slow accumulation of damage from the constant background of galactic cosmic rays. Beyond cancer, there is growing evidence that long-term radiation exposure can cause significant damage to the cardiovascular system, potentially leading to heart attacks and strokes. Another major area of concern is the central nervous system, especially the brain. Studies have shown that the heavy ions found in GCRs can be particularly damaging to brain tissue, affecting memory, spatial awareness, and decision-making abilities. There is also evidence that space radiation can damage the lens of the eye, accelerating the formation of cataracts, a condition already observed in astronauts who have spent extended periods in space. The human crew are not the only ones vulnerable to the constant barrage of space radiation. The very spacecraft that keeps them alive is also at risk. A modern spaceship is packed with sophisticated computers, sensors, and communication systems. However, the microscopic transistors and memory cells at the heart of these electronic systems are exquisitely sensitive to the impacts of high-energy particles. A single cosmic ray can cause a serious malfunction. When a charged particle passes through a microchip, it can flip a bit in the computer's memory, changing a 1 to a 0 or vice versa. This is known as a single-event upset, and it could cause a computer to crash or corrupt vital calculations. A more dangerous phenomenon is single-event latch-up, which can cause permanent hardware failure, destroying that part of the circuit forever. The danger of space radiation is not just a theoretical problem for future missions. It is a real and present challenge that we have been dealing with since the very beginning of the space age. The astronauts of the Apollo program were the first humans to travel completely outside the protection of Earth's magnetic field. Many of the Apollo crew members reported seeing strange flashes of light, even when their eyes were closed. Scientists quickly realized that the astronauts were seeing high-energy galactic cosmic rays as they passed directly through their eyeballs. Astronauts living for months at a time on space stations like the ISS have provided a wealth of data on the long-term effects of radiation, contributing vital information that helps us build better models of the radiation environment. One of the most significant events in recent history was the Halloween storm of 2003, which forced the ISS crew to take shelter and demonstrated how quickly the space weather environment can change. So how do we stop these tiny cosmic cannonballs? The most straightforward approach is to simply put a lot of stuff in their way. This is known as passive shielding. However, the reality of space travel, where every single kilogram is astronomically expensive to launch, makes this a very tricky balancing act. We cannot just build our spacecraft out of solid lead. The key, scientists have discovered, is to use materials rich in light elements, especially hydrogen. When a cosmic ray particle hits a hydrogen nucleus, it is like one billiard ball hitting another of the same size. The energy is transferred cleanly without creating dangerous secondary radiation. This has led to spacecraft designs with multi-layered walls that incorporate hydrogen-rich materials like water and polyethylene, providing both structural integrity and effective radiation shielding. Building specialized shielding materials is one part of the solution, but what if we could use the things we already need to bring with us as a shield? This is the core idea behind smart spacecraft design. Water is a perfect example. It is rich in hydrogen, an excellent shielding material, and something astronauts absolutely need to survive. Instead of storing water in a central tank, engineers design vehicles where water tanks are built into the walls of the crew's living quarters. This multi-purpose philosophy extends to food supplies, waste products, and all onboard materials. The goal is to create a gradient of safety, where the most occupied areas are surrounded by the most mass, providing maximum protection. It is a clever and elegant solution that makes the entire spacecraft part of its own shield, working smarter rather than just building thicker walls. While smart design and passive shielding can help reduce the chronic low-level dose from galactic cosmic rays, they may not be enough to handle the sudden, intense danger of a major solar particle event. For this acute threat, we need a different strategy. The storm shelter. Just as you might have a reinforced storm cellar to protect from a tornado, a Mars-bound spacecraft will have a heavily shielded safe room. The operational plan would be straightforward. When space weather forecasters detect a major solar eruption, the crew would retreat to the shelter and wait out the storm, which could last for several hours or even days. By concentrating heavy shielding around one small volume, we can provide very high protection against SPEs without adding prohibitive mass to the entire spacecraft. Passive shielding is effective, but it will always be limited by the weight penalty. But what if, instead of just blocking the radiation, we could deflect it away from the spacecraft altogether? This is the core idea behind active shielding. The concept is to create a miniature artificial magnetosphere around a spacecraft. By generating a powerful magnetic field, we could create an invisible force field that pushes incoming radiation aside. The most common concept involves using powerful superconducting magnets that can generate incredibly strong magnetic fields without producing waste heat. However, active shielding technologies are still in early stages of development. While active shielding holds the promise of a revolutionary solution, it remains a technology for the future, a tantalizing prospect on the scientific horizon. Shielding the spacecraft is one thing, but what if we could also help the astronaut's body protect itself from within? This is the goal of medical countermeasures against radiation. The idea is not to stop radiation from entering the body, but to mitigate the damage it causes once there. Some potential drugs work as powerful antioxidants, neutralizing free radicals before they can harm our DNA. Another exciting avenue is exploring ways to boost the body's own natural DNA repair mechanisms. Some research focuses on developing therapies that could enhance these repair systems, making them faster and more accurate. Ultimately, the best strategy will be a combination of approaches, shielding the spacecraft and supplementing these external protections with internal biological countermeasures. Our current best bet for passive shielding relies on simple, hydrogen-rich materials like water and polyethylene plastic. These are great, But scientists and engineers are constantly pushing the boundaries of material science. The quest is on to engineer bespoke materials designed from the atom up, specifically for the harsh radiation environment of deep space. One of the most promising materials is hydrogenated boron nitride nanotubes, incredibly strong, lightweight structures decorated with hydrogen atoms, creating a material that is packed with hydrogen yet stronger than steel. Another exciting development is metallic foams, materials that are mostly empty space but incredibly strong, with pores filled with specialized shielding polymers. Nature has had billions of years to come up with clever solutions to complex problems. Certain types of fungi have been found thriving in radioactive places like Chernobyl, using pigments like melanin to convert gamma radiation into chemical energy. This has sparked a fascinating idea. What if we could use these radiation-eating fungi to create a living shield for our astronauts? A self-growing, self-repairing shielding system. Scientists are also studying extremophiles like Deinococcus radiodurans, which can withstand radiation doses thousands of times greater than what would kill a human by being incredibly efficient at repairing DNA damage. Nature's solutions, from radiation-eating fungi to super-resilient bacteria, could hold the key to protecting human life as we venture beyond our planetary cradle. As we look towards the future of deep space travel, it is clear that there will be no single magic bullet solution to the problem of radiation. Instead, the future of shielding lies in integration, a symphony of different technologies and strategies working in concert. This holistic approach, combining passive materials, active fields, smart design, and biological aids, is where the true cutting edge of shielding research is heading. Imagine the Mars transit vehicle of the 2040s, its structure made from advanced composites, internal layout meticulously planned, with a heavily fortified storm shelter and even partial active shielding during solar storms. This integrated system represents our best hope, a recognition that the problem is too complex for any one solution, requiring the brute force of passive shields, the elegance of smart design, targeted storm shelters, futuristic active fields, and biological resilience. Our journey to the stars, a dream as old as humanity itself, is no longer a distant fantasy, but a tangible goal on the horizon. We stand on the precipice of becoming a multi-planetary species, with Mars as our first stepping stone. Yet this grand voyage is shadowed by an invisible and relentless peril: space radiation, representing the single greatest technical and biological hurdle we must overcome. The quest to conquer this challenge has spurred an incredible wave of innovation across multiple scientific disciplines. We have moved beyond simple thick walls, understanding that smart design and hydrogen-rich materials provide elegant solutions. We have learned to be smarter, designing spacecraft where every component serves as part of an integrated shield, a testament to the ingenuity required when every kilogram counts. The immense effort being poured into solving the radiation problem is more than just a technical exercise. It is the key that will unlock the rest of the solar system for human exploration. This quest has profound implications beyond space travel. Advanced shielding materials could improve radiation protection on Earth, while medical research could lead to new treatments for cancer and age-related diseases. Ultimately, our determination to overcome the radiation hazard speaks to the very core of the human spirit. Our innate desire to explore, push boundaries, and venture into the unknown with careful planning and deep respect for challenges. This is not merely an engineering problem. It is a moral obligation to the brave men and women who will undertake these historic voyages, carrying our collective hopes and dreams. As we stand here today, on the cusp of this new era, the path forward is clearer than ever. The challenge of space radiation is immense, but not insurmountable. Through scientific understanding, technological innovation, and human persistence, we are building the shields that will make our future in space possible. The journey will be long, and there is still much work to be done. But with every new discovery, we are pushing back the darkness and laying the foundations for a future where the red dust of Mars is no longer a distant dream, but the next frontier in the unending human story of exploration.